Good evening. Welcome to SportsCenter from the nation's capital. I'm Scott Van Pelt. The first Sunday of the National Football League season in the books. We got off-field news before the games began. Rookie quarterbacks making debuts, veteran quarterbacks in new places. Tim Hasselbeck's here in studio to break down some of the key moments from the day. We begin, as we do, nightly best thing I saw today. How about a tip of the cap to some defense? Monsters of the Midway style. The Bears were down 17-0. They get a block, punt, scoop, and score, and then they get a Tyreek Stevenson pick six. Cataclysmic decision from Will Levis there. And Chicago comes roaring back. Soldier Field going wild. Levis just trying to get rid of it. Couldn't get enough mustard on it to get out of bounds. Stevenson's first pick of the season is a pick six, and the number one pick was able to cheer it on from the sidelines. That, of course, is Caleb Williams. We'll show you how his day went. Didn't do a lot, but his defense did plenty. Chicago gets the victory over the Titans. As for the Sunday nighter, the Rams and the Lions. The Rams battled last year in the playoffs, but the Lions came through by one. Of course, we know the history of Matthew Stafford, their former number one pick in Detroit. We're tied at threes. Puka Nacua makes the catch, goes down, and would eventually, after he came back onto the field briefly for a series, be carted off. Had a knee injury during training camp. That is potentially awful news. Jamison Williams, what a game this guy had, the speedster out of Alabama. From Jared Goff, and the Lions are on the move. Jahmyr Gibbs hit, spins around, initially ruled down. The ball came out. They reviewed it to see, I guess, if the ball came out, and upon further review, no part of the body was down before the ball crosses the line. It's 10-3. Lions lead. Matthew Stafford into the red zone, floats one up, and it's picked. Kirby Joseph. Rams did not have a single red zone turnover last year. Matthew Stafford, brilliant at protecting the football, but here that is a costly pick as it stays 10-3. Low scoring at the half. It's still 10-3. Goff has time. It was a double move. The flag was on the Rams, and that is Williams. What'd I tell you, Hasselbeck? Double moves. They work every time. The Lions pushing this out to a two-score lead at 17-13. Cooper Kupp. He and Stafford have been a magical combination, and they hooked up over and over and over again tonight. That's a gain of 21, and it sets up Kyren Williams. He bulls his way to the end zone, and the Rams are within 7. It's a 17-13 game. In the fourth, Goff looking for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Instead is picked by John Johnson III. They had to take a look at this one as his hand is just underneath the football. That's a pick. Here come the Rams and Stafford. Their left tackle was out. They had to get clever and figures out a way to get protection, roll the pocket, and Kupp got it. The toe drag, you see those pebbles kick up, an incredible grab, and Kupp wasn't done. He's in motion all night. Here he catches it and gets to the end zone, and the Rams have fought back from down 17-3. They've got a 20-17 lead. 2 minutes to go. Goff across the middle. That's Sam Laporta off his incredible rookie year. Tack on 15 for the helmet-to-helmet contact. Cameron Kitchens called for the penalty there. The rookie adds 15. And now the Lions are on the drive looking for the score to win this game. Again, it's St. Brown who is the intended target. He actually does a great job sort of playing defender after he fell to the turf to knock it away. Lions maintain possession. Jake Bates, who'd done some kicking in this building in the spring league, and here he ties it up from 32 yards, and we head to overtime. In overtime, Lions get possession, and they march right down the field. What a luxury to have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. The battering ram that is Montgomery with a gain of 21. Now you change it up with Gibbs out of the backfield, so dangerous, and he picks up 10. Lions defense looked just gassed. The Rams defense was gassed. They could do nothing to stop the Lions. It's Montgomery plowing towards the end zone. McVay actually took a timeout to try to let his guys get their wind, get their legs back under them. Nothing you're going to do. Honolulu Blue to the end zone. It's Montgomery who did the heavy lifting on that drive, finishing off a 17-carry, 91-yard night. That touchdown makes the Lions 6-point winners, 26-20, the final score, as the Lions grab the victory in their home opener for the first time under Dan Campbell. Of course, last year they won their first game on the road in Arrowhead to start their season, which ended with a hard-fought NFC Championship game loss against San Francisco. Detroit has now won 9 of its last 10 at home when you add in the playoffs. Had LA won, you and I had been talking about the magic trick that Stafford and the Rams were able to pull out of their. They don't have their left tackle. He's injured. Puka goes down. It's basically the Stafford and Kupp show. And all credit to them for getting this game to overtime. But in the end, the Lions do, as Mike Tirico was saying on the NBC call, and I agree, you're supposed to be one of the bullies in the block. You're supposed to win your home games. And they figured out a way to do it. I guess the place to start is what happened in overtime. Yeah. And that's an interesting luxury they have, isn't it? You can go Gibbs with some finesse, or you can go Montgomery that's battering a Ram. He's who won them the game. What'd you see there?
Well, the backs, for sure. They have the complement of backs, different skill sets. But they're just willingness to say, yeah, we're going to, even though we have all this speed on the perimeter, we're going to bully you. We're going to play smash mouth football. And, people can talk about the grit in Detroit, but when it shows up, you start to feed off of it. I mean, Scott, it's very rare in the National Football League that you see a team late in a football game just run the ball down your throat. So much so that the head coach of the team that's on defense says, hey, I have to call a timeout just to see if we can hold on. Takes the timeout, and then basically every man scores with the guy he's blocking into the end zone. I mean, that, I think, we know how Dan Campbell is. Sometimes teams can take on the identity of their head coach.
Right.
Like, we saw it a little bit last year. Mm-hmm. Like, what we just saw means there should be no reason to think that it shouldn't continue to happen.
I think it is interesting, and it speaks to the luxury of options that they have. Laporta and St. Brown had only 7 catches in this game, but now, and you never know with the chatter you hear in training camp, like, ooh, look out for Williams, like he's going to be the guy. Well, he has 121 in that double move touchdown. Mm-hmm. If they, like Miami, if the Lions start adding multiple options, it only makes them more dangerous, and it appears that the chatter was real here, doesn't it?
It does, and then when you think about, you've got a play caller who's done a very good job, and then a quarterback who's not yet 30 years old, that's been to a Super Bowl, who's been in big games, who makes great decisions. Like, I think there's an element there, too, when we talk about the grit and we talk about some of their other players. How about the job Jared Goff has continued to do with some of these weapons that have been put around him?
And we fight the urge, Tim, week 1 to not overstate. So I'm not going to make this into a mountain necessarily unless you say, actually, it's really important. 2 years ago, they beat Green Bay to end the year. They don't go to the playoffs, but that's a step in the right direction. Then they probably should have been in the Super Bowl. They lose a game at San Francisco where they had a big lead. It slips away. Now they wear a bullseye all of a sudden. Sure. How important to win this game to start the year in the correct fashion, given that 2 of the next 3 are on the road?
I think how they won, it's important, right? The identity of the team, the buy-in of look, when you watch those 2 teams, Scott, and you said, okay, which team do you think had a harder training camp? Which team do you think had a tougher training camp?
Right.
Like, you would say Detroit, like the way they finished that game. And so I think when the players start to believe what the coach is kind of preaching of how to win, like, I think it was the manner of which it happened. I think it was so probably important for the Lions. They got after the opposing team quarterback, and they ran the football.
And they get the 26-20 overtime victory, first Sunday in the books.
Man, I give that team a ton of credit. What Sean did with that team, getting them in here, and man, I thought they had a heck of a plan. They adjusted to some things that we threw at them well, and they just kept coming, man. They fought and they fought, and it was, man, it was. you know, there's a lot of I respect it. I do. I respect it. And that quarterback, man, Stafford, I thought played lights out, man, and played tough and hit after hit, just kept getting up and making unbelievable throws. So I just give them a lot of credit. They did. They fought now. But we're hard to break. So we did what we had to do, and, you know, our defense held there. Before that, Fox makes a heck of a punt, and defense holds, offense, we get it back, and, you know, get it in overtime. We win the toss, and we don't look back. So we eventually found our rhythm. We did what we had to do, and I said it early in the week, the team that makes the most mistakes is the one who usually loses these early games, and we made one less mistake. And so now we just got to improve from there.
Sean McVay getting a lot of credit from Dan Campbell. A tough loss. His thoughts after the Rams fall in OT.
With the look that we had wanted, and we just didn't make it. But we came in here with an aggressive mindset and mentality. Didn't feel like you could settle for field goals. That's why we came up short the last time. And then ultimately, a couple of those situations is inevitably what ended up leading to us probably not finishing it out tonight. The penalty was a big one to bring the touchdown back, and then having a turnover, and then that one that you alluded to. But all those are growth opportunities for us. But we came here to be aggressive, and I wouldn't take that decision back. Yep. Oh, they were big. You know, we got the looks that we wanted, and we got the look that we wanted on the third down as well. And you know what? That's part of it. There was a lot of great individual plays. There was a lot of guys that stepped up. You know, I was proud of Warren McClendon. Thought A.J. Akiri coming in. I mean, you flex him up from the practice squad. Nopum goes down. He plays the whole second half. He's going against one of the premier rushers in this league for the majority of the game. And I thought our guys did a good job of being able to help and lend some presence. But he should be proud of the way that he handled himself tonight.
So they lose the game, and the question is, have they lost Puka Nacua for some period of time? Had the knee injury in camp, was playing well and was targeted often early, went down on a catch, did not actually return for a part of a series and then left on a cart. No update yet. If we get one, we will let you know what we hear. Not a shock that in the absence of Nacua, Cooper Kupp was targeted 21 times, triple the amount of any other Rams receiver. He had 14 catches